Islam, greetings, hello, hola, como esta, konnichiwa, neo, bonjour, and welcome to another episode, part 2, on the Moorish Science Temple of America, Temple number 13, Pontiac Town Hall, with our special guest for our special interview, Honorable Tim Greimel, Pontiac Mayoral Candidate, and we'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself more thoroughly. However, at this time, I'd like to ask all of our audience, Moorish audience, or anybody that would like to join us in the Moorish American prayer, simply face the east. Your feet is at a 45-degree angle, 2 on the right, 5 on the left. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation, by night and by day. Through His holy prophet, through our lead. Amen. Once again, I'm Prince Miles Ill. I'm the Grand Sheik for Temple number 13 and the host for today on our informative show today. And before I go any further, I'd like to give honors to the great God Allah, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I'd like to give honors to his prophet, his holy and divine prophet, Noble Ali, the founder of the Moorish Science Temple of America in 1913 AD, for the uplifting of fallen humanity. I'd like to give honors to all divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius, etc. I'd like to give honors to our forerunner to the prophet, Brother Marcus Garvey, who came and gathered the people and prepared them for the coming prophet. I'd like to give honors to all of our past leadership of the Moorish Divine and National Movement all over the world, and to our former Grand Sheik of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother R. Loville, and to our present Grand Sheik, Moorish Science Temple of America, Brother R. Jones Bay, and to his official staff. Giving honors to all of our national officers, state officers, and all of the officers here at Temple number 13, to all my colleagues, we give our honors to you, and to all of the members, supporters in our business communities, honors to you. We give honors to all of our Moorish literature, our 2 flags combined, the red flag with the 5-pointed green star in the center. The 5 points represents love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And to the flag of the United States, the Old Glory, which represents freedom in our Constitution. And so I'd like to give honors to our Divine Charter, which represents our legal right to practice Islamism in America. And I'd like to give honors to all of you that are watching, to all of our ancient ancestors, our forefathers, to all the beautiful people around the world. Thank you for joining us today. And so, Tim, let's talk to the audience for a minute and let them know all about you on this part 2 of our Pontiac Town.
Well, it's great to be here with you, Brother El, first of all, so thank you for the opportunity to join you today. You've been involved in the community for many, many years and have done a lot of good work, especially with young people in the community, so thank you for your long-standing service. I have also been involved here in Pontiac for many years. I was a county commissioner for Pontiac for 5 years. Then I was a state representative for Pontiac, the state representative for Pontiac for 7 years. During that time, I served as the House Democratic leader, the House Minority leader in Lansing. But professionally, I'm an attorney. And before I went to the State House, I worked as a labor and civil rights attorney, representing employees who were discriminated against in the workplace, and making sure that the dignity, equality, and full rights of every American are respected and upheld. And that's really why I got into politics. We really need to make sure that we're lifting up not some Americans, not some Pontiac residents, but all Pontiac residents. And we have enormous potential here. We have enormous opportunity in Pontiac. And if we can get city governance right, there's really no limit to what we can achieve. And we need to make sure that our focus is on the people, the residents of Pontiac, and that we're expanding economic opportunity and improving the quality of life for all Pontiac residents.
All right, thank you for that, Mr. Greimel. And so I guess I'll just jump into the series of questioning here, which comes from the greater part of the community. It's very interesting questions, and and our intent is to make sure that the audience is more informed, and the Pontiac electors is more informed. More information allows us to be empowered at the polls and not powerless. And so when we talk about voters' education, this is what we're talking about. So we have an opportunity to examine the candidates for Pontiac and really hear and see and be a part of their vision and see ourselves working together, accomplishing goals that impacts everybody. And so, Tim, the first question that I have here is, what are your 2 top priorities for the city of Pontiac?
Well, great question, and we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of important work to do here in the community, and so it's tough to pick just 2, but I would say my 2 highest priorities really relate to investing in our people here in the city of Pontiac. And the number 1 priority is to make sure that we stand up a real youth recreation, youth enrichment program. The voters in Pontiac passed a youth recreation millage almost 3 years ago. That's generated almost $1 million a year that the city's been collecting, and yet we have virtually nothing to show for it. And our young people deserve better. We need to invest in our young people. They are our future. And when I talk about youth recreation, I mean more than just sports and athletics, although that's important. But we also need to make sure that we're standing up art and music programs, after-school tutoring programming, computer programming and coding sessions and lessons for our young people. We need to make sure that Pontiac's young people are given every opportunity to live up to their full potential. And then the other priority also relates to investing in Pontiac's residents, and that is investing in job training and job placement programs. We need to make sure that as investment and jobs come here, that Pontiac residents get more of those jobs. That means making sure that we're partnering with local businesses, with the school district, with Oakland Community College, community organizations, to stand up real apprenticeship and job training programs, making sure we're connecting young people with those programs, and then making sure that we're connecting them with job opportunities. Whenever the city gives tax abatements or tax credits to investors or businesses, we need to make sure that we're asking something of them in return. And first and foremost, it needs to be making sure that they're hiring a certain percentage of their workforce from Pontiac residents. That's the way that we'll ensure that we have shared economic opportunity for everybody here in our city.
That is fantastic, and we appreciate that. Shared economic opportunity. And so for our second question, how will you involve community stakeholders in your administration?
So this is a really important question, and it's really about being collaborative. I've talked a lot about the importance of the mayor and city council collaborating with one another, but more broadly, the mayor and city council, city government as a whole, needs to collaborate with Pontiac residents, local small businesses, civic organizations, the faith community, and make sure that the city's priorities, city government's priorities, reflect the priorities of residents here in the community. And that means doing more to solicit input from the community in terms of town halls. It means better communicating with residents about what's going on. So often residents have been left in the dark about decisions going on at City Hall. We need to make sure that we have a truly transparent and accountable way of conducting business at City Hall that works with residents, not against residents.
Absolutely. That means that's counterproductive.
That's right. Exactly.
You got to eradicate all counterproductive programs. Okay, great response. Our next question is in your experience, what is the key to developing a great team?
Yeah. Well, I think there are a couple of key requirements and elements there.
You give us 3.
You want to make sure that the team has a good heart. You want to make sure that they really care about the people in the city, that they're in this for the right reasons, that they're not in it for personal gain, they're not in it to benefit their friends and family, that they're in it for everyday residents of Pontiac. So making sure they have a good heart. Secondly, you want to make sure that they bring competency and skills to the table in terms of an ability to efficiently and properly administer city programs and work with others. And then the third area is really about a willingness to collaborate. As I said before, you want to make sure that a team works well with one another and that they work well with the broader community. Because after all, ultimately all of us here in Pontiac are part of the same team, we're part of the same family, and we need to make sure that we're rowing in the same direction and working together to really improve the quality of life here.
Great response, Tim. And for our next question, what is the key to a successful budget?
Well, really budgets are about priorities, they're a reflection of values. And so as we go about constructing the budget, we need to think about what are our values and our priorities as a community. And that's one of the reasons why my top two priorities that we already discussed are about investing in people. Because if we invest in residents, the rest will follow. And that's why I so often talk about investing in our young people through youth recreation and enrichment programs, but also investing in people of all ages through job training and job placement programs. Obviously there are other very important priorities that ultimately affect the quality of life for everybody. That includes fixing the roads, promptly plowing the snow on the streets, making sure we're taking proper care of our parks, and of course, and perhaps most importantly, providing for public safety. We need to make sure that all of Pontiac's residents feel safe, and that means that they're treated with dignity and respect by law enforcement, and that we're addressing the serious incidents of violent crime that we've seen here in the community. I think there's more we can do proactively to try to address conflict before it spirals out of control into violence. And those priorities, those values need to be reflected in the city's budget.
Absolutely. And I agree with you, top to bottom. Next question. What is your constitutional stance on the topic of mandatory vaccine?
I do not support mandating vaccines for the general public. I think that employers, especially in certain areas, if they're involved in healthcare or involved in nursing home care, hospitals, I think that employers have the right to set some of those standards and principles, and so individual employers may have good reason to require vaccination for some of their employees. But when it comes to governments, I do not support vaccine mandates by governments.
Tim, what will be the difference between your administration and the current?
I think it really comes back to collaborating. I think if I could identify one challenge, one shortcoming of the current administration, it would be a lack of collaboration with the mayor's partners on city council, and they are partners, they need to be treated as partners, but also lack of collaboration with the broader community. And when I'm mayor, I'm committed to keeping city council in the loop, making sure that they're promptly informed of information as I receive it, but also that I solicit their feedback and input as I develop policy proposals. That's very important, that we work together and collaborate as we develop proposals, as opposed to the mayor just dumping a proposal in the lap of city council at the last minute when there's an urgent deadline. And this is really about partnership, it's really about collaboration and treating city council and the broader community as being part of the same team.
Okay. Now Tim, this is a question that I have. I feel because of your credentials, your Esquire ability, I feel that that gives you an advantage in the operations of the executive office, executive branch, knowing the law, having been trained to know the law, and knowing in more science, law govern all events. That's what we're talking. Law govern all events. We're all about enforcement of our constitutional law.
Absolutely.
In fact, our mandate from our Holy Prophet is to bring our people back into the constitutional fold again, so they will be law abiders. And one of the instructions he gave us was to go to those that know law in the city hall. Do you feel the same way that it gives you an advantage? Maybe you're a benefactor of that ability that you have?
Well, I think there are advantages to having an understanding of the law as mayor. Having that legal background, I think, can help inform sensible, sound decision making as mayor. A lot of the challenges we face, actually, and have faced, and probably will continue to face, have involved legal disputes. We've seen that with the Phoenix Center legal dispute with Ottawa Towers that went on for 9 years, has reportedly now been resolved, but that dragged on for 9 years when it should have never lasted that long. It should have been resolved long ago. We've seen it with some of the disputes around medical marijuana licenses. That dragged on for 3 years. We still haven't seen all of the licenses issued there. And we've also seen it with the dispute over health care for city retirees, and we need to make that situation right and do right by our retirees who worked very hard serving the public for many years and did so because they were promised that they'd receive retiree health care, and yet the city still hasn't resolved that issue, still hasn't restored their retiree health care benefits. So that's another legal issue. So I could go on and on about all the legal challenges facing the city, and we're likely to see some lawsuits from those who didn't receive medical marijuana licenses. It's likely that some of those folks will sue the city. So I think we're going to see some continuing legal issues in the city, and ultimately the mayor, together with council, needs to make decisions about how to resolve these things. And certainly they get advice from attorneys, but it's important to have the ultimate decision makers have a lens of experience, exactly, by which they can actually decipher what those lawyers are telling them and make a decision that's rooted in law, but also always with an eye towards the best interest of Pontiac's residents.
I 100% agree. And thank you for that.
Go ahead, just wrap it up.
Okay, so for our next question, the charter was ordained September 1983. Any changes that your administration would recommend to the existing charter?
It's a great question, and you're absolutely right. The charter now is almost 40 years old, not quite, but almost 40 years old. There have been a couple of changes made to it, but very small, minor modifications, amendments to it, and only a couple over that entire length of time. And so I welcome the opportunity to really do a comprehensive review of the charter. As you know, on August 3rd, just a couple weeks ago, the people of Pontiac voted to elect a charter revision commission to really do a deep dive on the charter and come up with some proposed revisions. And I think there are a number of areas that are ripe for consideration there. For example, we have 7 city council members. Currently, they're all elected by specific districts in the city. I think it makes sense to elect a couple of them at large so that we still have district city council people, but maybe a couple of them are elected in the city as a whole. And I say that because I think there's a plus to having, obviously at the end of the day, all the city council members really are responsible for the city as a whole, but I think when they're all elected just by voters in certain portions of the city, they often tend to focus more on that part of the city. And I think there's an advantage to having a couple of city council members whose electorate, whose voters are the entirety of the city, so that they can have an incentive electorally to really pay attention to the whole city. I also think that's a great way to start to develop leadership that can ultimately transition into the mayor's office because they've already been representing the entirety of the city. So I think there are good reasons to want to keep district representation, so you have that specific localized representation, but also have a couple of folks who actually represent the whole city. In addition, we have a police oversight commission that's in this current city charter, and that hasn't been utilized in many years. And part of that is that we don't have our own police department anymore. We contract with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. But even before that happened, that police oversight commission was not being implemented. And I think we need to make sure that we're implementing proper police oversight. I think that's an important aspect of accountability of law enforcement. I think it's an important aspect of making sure that the rule of law is respected and enforced for everybody, not just everyday people, but law enforcement as well. And so I'd like to see us examine that portion of the charter and adjust it, modernize it, so that it's applicable to our current contract situation with the Sheriff's Department, for example. Right. Another area is minimum manning for the fire department. That was put in the city charter. The city doesn't have its own fire department currently. Part of the rationale for going with a contract with Waterford was that it was argued that minimum manning requirement for the fire department was unaffordable for the city. So that's another area where we should assess that. Hey, is that minimum manning requirement appropriate? If it is appropriate to have a minimum manning requirement, what is that right ratio? What is that right requirement? So those are just a few examples of opportunities, I think, to look at the city charter, make some adjustments, bring it up to the current times.
Okay. And we appreciate that answer there. Moving right along, Tim, will your administration develop and improve a new and improved organizational chart to respond to contingencies?
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen a lot of decisions made in the past 10 or more years, first by emergency managers that outsourced a lot of work that used to be done in-house at the city. We've seen a lot of changes in the organizational chart and exactly who reports to who. And we need to make sure that we're re-examining all of those aspects. We haven't made any final decisions yet, but we have started examining that organizational chart because some of it is redundant, some of it overlaps with other functions. And we want to make sure that lines of reporting are clear cut, that there's a process and structure that allows for accountability, making sure that city government is always serving residents of Pontiac. So we can streamline some of that bureaucracy, I think. There have been some areas that have been really neglected at City Hall. We haven't had a DPW director for a long time. It was just a person brought into that role, I understand. But for a long time, we went without any DPW director. We've gone with other vacancies left open for far too long. The other thing I would say is when it comes to parks and recreation, we haven't had much staffing there. And if we're going to have a real youth recreation and youth enrichment program, we need to make sure that we have a meaningful Parks and Rec department at the city. And that's true for providing programming and properly maintaining the parks in our city as well. So we're going to do a comprehensive re-examination of the structure of city government and make sure that we're putting it in a way that yes, is efficient and streamlined, but most importantly, orients everything we do to improving the quality of life for Pontiac residents.
That is excellent. So, Tim, moving right along, will your administration be inclined to appoint representation or to ensure Pontiac has a representative on the Water Resource Board?
Yeah, so this is a really important question because I think a lot of residents have seen their rates go up.
Before you go in there,
yeah.
Pontiac built, if I'm not mistaken, that was a note added. Pontiac built that water resource facility. That was ours at a point.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And so that was taken away. Yep. So, from my understanding.
Yep, that's exactly right. And so the history there is that Pontiac has, always, it's a long time, but for many, many decades, for our entire lives, gotten its water, received its drinking water from the Detroit water system. However, until pretty recently, the city of Pontiac had its own wastewater treatment facility for sewer water. And that facility still exists, but what happened was the emergency managers sold it, some would say gave it away, to the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner's office. I think given that was done now 10 years ago almost, it's going to be tough to reverse that. But what we really need to focus on is that Pontiac's residents' interests are represented and considered appropriately when it comes to decisions made both by the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, who's Jim Nash at the county level, but also by the Great Lakes Water Authority. And when it comes to the Oakland County Water Resources Commissioner, there's not actually a board there or authority there. It's just one individual elected at large in the county, and he now and his office are now responsible for running and maintaining Pontiac's water and sewer operations at a local level. Now, the other layer to this is for the entire region of Southeast Michigan, including all or portions of 8 counties. There's the Great Lakes Water Authority, which sets a lot of the rates at the regional level that ultimately end up getting passed on to residents in the form of water bills and sewer bills. And when it comes to the Great Lakes Water Authority, that is a board of people. There are 6 people on that. One is appointed from Oakland County, one from Macomb County, one from Wayne County, 2 from the city of Detroit, and 1 by the governor of the state of Michigan. And so Oakland County has 1 representative there. And we need to be more proactive and more assertive in helping the county select the right person for that job, somebody who's going to fight for residents and especially Pontiac residents. And I'm committed to making sure we do that.
So name that board one more time for the audience.
So it's the Great Lakes Water Authority, and it's a board for all of the Detroit area, Southeast Michigan, including Pontiac. And it has a representative, 1 representative from Oakland County, 1 from Macomb County, 1 from Wayne County, 2 from the city of Detroit, and 1 that's appointed by the governor of Michigan. And so there are 6 people on that board.
Thank you for that, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Greimel, will your administration establish a candidates commission?
Yeah. So there is currently a commission that is in place under city ordinance, and that was proposed and ultimately passed by the voters when they approved the medical marijuana ordinance almost 3 years ago. And that's a group, I believe, of 5 people. And my understanding is that it's really designed to be an administrative appeals organization. So if somebody applied for a license, didn't get a license, they can then appeal to this 5-person marijuana commission. However, I've heard mixed things as to whether or not anybody's actually been appointed to this commission. Most of what I've heard is that people have not yet been appointed to this commission. Obviously, the mayor has an obligation to respect the vote of the people and make sure that we're appointing people to this marijuana commission that is supposed to exist, but because nobody's been appointed to it apparently, hasn't really been doing anything. And so absolutely, I'm fully committed to making sure that I fulfill my duties and responsibilities as mayor by appointing people to this commission as required under city ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Greimel, will your administration establish or reestablish a Department of Public Work to foster more efficient services to address the needs of the city of Pontiac?
Absolutely. And we have a Department of Public Works, but it's a shadow of what it used to be, because yes, there's a position for director of Department of Public Works, but a lot of what they used to do has been outsourced. And we're going to do a really comprehensive assessment of whether we can bring some of that back in-house, because some of those things, I believe, can be done more efficiently, more cost-effectively, that is to say for lower price to taxpayers, and in a higher quality way that's more responsive to residents' needs if we bring some of that back in-house instead of contracting it out to private service providers.
Okay, excellent. Will your administration reestablish or establish a community development department?
Yes. Yeah, this is a really great question, and we've seen a few different versions of this over the years. We've seen a separate economic development department and a separate community development department. At times, we've seen some combination of the two. Right now, I think there's an economic development department, but not a community development department. And really, the two should be viewed as going hand in hand. You know, economic development
And community development, right?
Exactly.
I agree.
And so we need to make sure that we're thinking of economic development, not about development for corporations,
Right.
but about economic development for the people of Pontiac, for our community, and doing it in a way that actually benefits the community, strengthens neighborhoods as opposed to destroying neighborhoods. And so I think we really want to make sure that we're combining those priorities into something that, and it may be one department, it may be two separate departments that work closely together. We're going to look at that, but we really need to combine and marry the priorities of economic development with community development, because when economic development's done right, it's all about community.
Absolutely, the community is the biggest benefactor.
Exactly, or should be.
Should
That's right.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So we want to make sure that the community is included,
Right.
and included into the reality of economic development.
Exactly.
And so that's excellent. That's an excellent response. Okay, so Mr. Greimel, and once again, thank you for being here today with us for our Pontiac Town Hall session. And will your administration establish an Indigenous Commission to address the needs of the Indigenous inhabitants of the City of Pontiac, Oakland County, and to implement the constitutional and international covenants on the rights of Indigenous people?
Well, as you and I have talked, Brother El, many times, I am fully committed to making sure that we uphold our obligations and the rule of law when it comes to the human rights of all people and all residents here in the City of Pontiac. That means we've got to make sure that we're in compliance and following the U.S. Constitution and the Michigan State Constitution, that we're following the city charter, federal, state, and local laws, but also that we're upholding, of course, international standards of human rights for everyone. And at the end of the day, this is really about making sure that we respect the dignity and quality of all of our residents, and make sure that we're not just saying that, but really living that daily.
Thank you. And in closing on our question part of the town hall, will your administration bring the State Department of Natural Resources to assess our parks and lakes and to ensure upgrades to our parks, lakes, and rivers?
Yeah, it's very important that we do more to protect our amazing land here in Pontiac. We have truly, as you know, amazing parkland, but it has not been properly maintained. You know, we've got really, truly jewels of parks with Bodette, with Murphy, with Galloway Lake Park, with Hawthorne Park, and then obviously a lot of smaller parks throughout the community. And we need to make sure that we're, number one, doing an assessment of exactly where things stand in terms of maintenance and needed improvements. I think that the Department of Natural Resources can be a really important partner in helping us do that. The County Parks Department can be helpful too in helping us do that assessment. But it's really important that we maintain ownership over our own parks. So I want to emphasize that. We're not going to be giving away parkland. We're going to make sure that we maintain ownership right here by the city over city parks.
That's right.
But we can, of course, seek some assistance to assess the needs of those parks and then go about finding funding to address those needs. And the state does have a Natural Resources Trust Fund where cities and others can apply for resources and funding for park improvements. I don't think the city's done a whole lot of that over the years, and that's an area where there is this existing pot of money that we can go to the legislature and seek some funds from in order to improve the quality of our parks here. But also, you know, we have parks that don't have functioning restrooms in them. We have parks that have a lot of garbage in them, whose grass isn't being mowed in a timely way. And we need to do better by our families that should be using those parks. I mean, I've talked to people who live right across the street from Murphy Park, and they don't use Murphy Park because there aren't functioning restrooms there, or there's a lot of litter and clutter on the land, and they go to Auburn Hills instead. And that's not acceptable. I mean, we need to make sure that our parks here are well maintained, are quality parks, where Pontiac families feel welcome, that they can go there. And I'm committed to making sure that we improve our parks. I'd like to see some splash pads for kids there, where kids can play in water features and things like that. I mean, we can really make our parks top-notch, high-quality parks. We've got beautiful land. We just have to have the political will to take proper care.
Nice. And so for all of the concerned citizens that has been actually about how do we take action to protect our parks, I pray that information was helpful and inspiring. So make sure you all reach out to find more information on ways that you can help support to protect our parks. so many citizens are concerned. I mean, just coming at me out of nowhere. Like, did you hear about what's happening at that park? They're trying to sell Murphy Party.
Right.
And so I was like, I didn't have any clue.
Exactly. And that's why I'm really adamant about this. Under no circumstances are we going to be selling or giving away Murphy Park or Bodette Park. These are crown jewels of our city, and we're going to keep these and make sure that they remain under city ownership for the benefit of Pontiac's residents.
I mean, I went out and got a boat because I recognized that I can actually get on a boat at Bodette Park with my children and go fishing.
Yeah, exactly.
That inspired me to go grab a little boat that I can afford.
Absolutely.
And switch out, like you said, the water feature.
Exactly.
And I realized, I said, wow, we got some beautiful real estate.
We really do. And Hawthorne Park it fronts a lake too. There are fishing opportunities there. I think there's more we can do to develop the access to the lake at Galloway Lake Park, but that's another option.
Well, Tim, we're at the end here, and I want to thank you for coming on and talking to our viewers and to the American people, not just the people in Pontiac. This is being ran not only here in our country, it's also being ran in other nations. So, which is a really cool feature with technology. So, if there's anything that you want to leave the viewers with, please do.
Well, I think just to re-emphasize that we're all in this together, that all of us who are members of the Pontiac family, who are Pontiac residents, we share the same ultimate destiny, and we need to work together to improve the quality of life and to expand economic opportunities for each and every Pontiac resident. And that's going to continue to be and will always remain the focus of my administration. My priorities will always be about improving the lives of everyday residents here in the city. And we got a lot of work to do that. You know, we've talked about some of those priorities. We've talked about the importance of providing better city services, fixing the roads, promptly plowing snow, making sure we're taking better care of our parks. We've got a lot of investment that our underground infrastructure needs. We still have lead service lines here in the city that need to be replaced. But you know, again, it's about more than just investing in physical infrastructure. As I've emphasized time and time again, we've got to invest in our human infrastructure. And that means investing in the people of our city. And that's why youth recreation, youth enrichment are so important. It's why job training and job placement programs are so important. And the other thing I would emphasize is we've got to make downtown Pontiac a destination. You know, it wasn't that long ago that we had Arts Museum, we had fireworks downtown, we had a Mexican festival, we had a Taste Fest, we had a Puerto Rican festival. We need to get back to making sure that we're having meaningful events downtown that attract both Pontiac residents downtown, but also people from throughout the region to Pontiac, and really become, again, the pride and soul of Oakland County. And that's the key. That's exactly the key. The other thing I'll mention is we do have a website. We have various social media pages. So please feel free to check us out, to follow us. Our website is Greimel for Pontiac. That's Greimel, 4 spelled out, FOR, Pontiac.com. Our Facebook is tim.greimel.3. Our Twitter is Greimel, of course, at Greimel for Pontiac, and that's GREIMEL, the number 4, and then Pontiac. And then our Instagram account is at Tim Greimel. And so please feel free to check us out. We'd love to keep you informed about what our campaign's doing. We have a very detailed policy proposal on our website that we stood up immediately when we announced our candidacy way back in January. So check us out, follow us, let us know if you have any questions. Really appreciate the opportunity, Brother L. Really appreciate all of your great service to the community. Thank you for all that you do.
And we appreciate you and your time and your efforts and all of your vision for our community. That's really awesome. And I hope the viewers learned and had an opportunity to be informed here today for our part 2 of our Pontiac Town Halls to ensure that everyone is having the opportunity to be informed. Thank you. Make sure you follow us at or subscribe to MSTA13gov.com. Follow our YouTube channel page at Brother El-Bashaw, that's BASHAW, and follow us on Facebook under Prince Ravana Miles Ill, and that leads you to every other link and every other program and services or other social medias that you would like to follow. So thank you all. Enjoy your day and be